All right.
Nice.
All right. We are live. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about UFC 282. And welcome back, everybody. I'm glad that we received such I can't even speak English right now, heartwarming feedback and support from you all. For those of you that actually have tuned in, thank you very much for doing so. Uh, Obviously, we have our illustrious panel with us today again. Jake, aka Roll BJJ, and myself, Jiho. So we're definitely going to go over 280 UFC 282 and the implications that that card had. And I'm pretty sure like we're going to get ourselves into a bit of a pickle, but who the hell cares right now? But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about what do you guys want? What do you guys want to pick off? You guys want to talk about the Magomed fight, or would you want to talk about Paddy Pimblett first?
I'm just gonna start things off more holistically, big picture. I mean,
Let's do it.
what a weird ending to the year. And I mean, we said, or we thought, I'm pretty sure, a message that kind of kept coming up the last time we spoke was that this was going to kind of shake up light heavyweight. Boy, did it. I don't know what's going to happen now with Dana making those comments about Jamal Hill fighting uh, in Brazil and everything against Glover. That to me makes things a little strange. I mean, obviously Magomed, his legs are going to be kind of taking a little while to recover. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where to start. There's just so many things to talk about.
Yeah, I mean the implications of what happened or has transpired because he simply wasn't happy. Uncle Dana wasn't happy when Magomed went off. Not on. I mean, it wasn't entirely his fault either because his translator got much of it wrong,
He did,
right?
yeah. But then
Like,
he had like he kind of had clarifying statements where he's basically just doubled down a little bit, didn't he? Where he was like, I thought I won. I don't want to fight in Vegas anymore. So he didn't say, I don't want to fight for the promotion. I think the clarification was, and I didn't fact check this, so maybe this is also fake news, who knows? But he was basically saying, I don't want to fight in Vegas anymore. The judging's off, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I feel like he's had multiple opportunities now to kind of just say, like, hey, that was a hard fought fight. And I should have, like, what I would want to hear from and I'm biased, right? But what I would want to hear from somebody who's going to be champion at some point, many people think, is I needed to finish that fight. I should not have left it to the judges, right? Jan's a tough opponent. I should have finished it. Don't leave any room for any of that. You know what I mean? But that's a typical type of statement that we hear from folks, right? When they're in that situation. I was not expecting a draw. I freaked out, to be honest with you. I can't remember the last one I saw.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's been a while since there's been a split draw like that.
yeah. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Kind of the same thing. It does leave light heavyweight in a weird position. Um, I think Dana, I told you guys before the stream, I think Dana kind of scheduled that Hill fight on emotion instead of actually thinking it through. I don't know if that was going through his mind before he, really called and made that decision. As Hill said in the interview, Jan and Ankalaev were still in the cage as he called to make that fight. So it does leave the division in a weird position, but that's all I really
Yeah.
have for it.
How about this? Let's just, so that we're all on the same page. How did you guys score it? I think we should just at least go through it real quick. How did you guys score it? What did you guys think about the rounds? And then maybe after that we can talk real quick about Glover versus Jamal. Like, how do we see that going if it actually gets booked?
Yeah, so the way that I had it scored is round one was just up for debate, right? We know that if we looked at biometrics, we had Magomed winning, right? But then it's a difficult one when you're looking at any sort of fight that goes to the decision. I mean, we've heard it ever since. I mean, we've seen fights in the past too where it didn't make any sense where we ended up, right? I know, Turnit, you and I were both talking about Leach versus D-Rod.
Mm-hmm.
We could very well have been talking about Armand versus Gamrot.
Gamrot, yeah.
And there's way too many of them. But then I think that Jan definitely punctuated rounds 2 and 3, whereas we had Magomed actually turning up his game, really using Jan's weakness against him in wrestling rounds 4
Yeah.
and 5.
Yep.
So That's where I had the judges' scorecards.
Yeah. If Jake, if you don't mind, I mean, my thoughts are pretty much exactly the same. I think about a little bit of like the coaching change that happened for the Francis versus Gane fight, where you can look back and I'm like, oh man, that's brilliant, right? Like you actually listen to your corner, you change it up. So I was disappointed to see that Magomed went there and Jan didn't really answer back in rounds 4 and 5. All he had to do was kind of stop it. His defense up to that point was pretty good, and he had a little bit of a trip up, and yeah, it's kind of like it was going to be obvious, right? I thought he pushed the pace rounds 1, 2, and 3. Jan did. I think like another thing that I have to always remind myself is the judges that are watching this, they're from a different vantage point. They see different things. Yes, you can see things on TVs and all of that, but they don't exactly see everything that we do close up. I had it 1, 2, 3 Jan, and then the second round, like honestly, round 5, I thought maybe like Montgomery was going to finish him potentially just because of like the lack of defense. So coming out with a tie, I was like, okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I kind of see it. Jan 1, 2, 3. You know, the third was kind of up in the air. I think, or was it the third or the first that I was kind of up in the air on? I have to rewatch the fight, but overall, it makes sense from the judges' perspective if we give Jan 10-9s in the first 3 rounds, Magomed a 10-9 in the 4th round, and Mago a 10-8 in the 5th round. It makes sense how it could come to a draw. And I know Jiho brought that point up real time on Instagram when we were talking in the chat and everything. And
prolific.
Yeah, and yeah, he's a wizard. So I can see it from the judges' standpoint, and there are things that they're going to see live that we're not seeing on TV. Of course, I think Jan went in with a perfect game plan. I think he was, like we spoke about in the podcast or the previous podcast, Jan went in with a game plan of chopping his legs out, not allowing him to use his wrestling, not allowing him to close the distance. So I think he did a really good job in that aspect. I think he had some gaps when it came to the 4th and 5th round. Championship rounds, he was having trouble keeping him at bay, defending those takedowns. But overall, he did a good job with pummeling, especially when he was up against the cage. And his counter wrestling was good in the first 3 rounds. I think they both weren't prepared for a 5-round fight. So unfortunately, Magomed in those last 2 rounds was able to turn it up a little bit better than Jan was, take advantage of it and exploit his weaknesses. So I can see how it went to a draw. I would probably give it to Magomed, especially if it's for a belt. But it is what it is, and we all love Jan, so I'm kind of glad that it did end up a draw. And I'm speaking bias here, of course, as well. But congrats to both fighters. I mean, it was an awesome performance.
Yeah, I think one aspect that I wish that I think we should be talking about as well would be like the corners, right? Man, I mean, the Magomed's corners, they really pumped him up in rounds 4 and 5. I mean, it felt like Rocky 4 when, Drago was getting like all riled up. I mean, it kind of went the opposite way where he actually did well. But you could also see that the corner wasn't that smart either. It was saying, in one case, say, hey, throw in punches and bunches, 1, 2, 3, at least 1, 2, 3. And then the head coach told him to reel it back. And I know that there needs to be some adaptation to a real life, like adapting, if you will, in a fight. But I just felt like his fight IQ. I was gonna blame Ankalaev for not being that smart or versatile as a top contender or for title contention, but I think it comes down to who coaches him, and not just like day to day, but in real time, like in these fights.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, before we get into, I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts that you wanted to add to that, but before we get into maybe what the impact we see on the card market for UFC is coming out of just the main event, the main fight, do we, maybe this is a little bit of a bad question here, but do we see that Jamal has any chance to win against Glover? I don't know. I don't see it. I see Glover's a beast. Glover is a beast.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a chance, especially with a guy like Jamal Hill. I think if anybody with punch or with knockout power like Jamal Hill, he would be the one to do it. I mean, he's got really heavy hands. He's got, you know, knockout power. I think that he could potentially beat Glover, but I think Glover just has better tools everywhere. If I'm going to be honest, I think Glover's more refined. He's had years to work on his game. He's good everywhere. I mean, his striking's become great also. I mean, he outstruck Yuri in some of the rounds. So I think Glover's probably, I would give it to Glover if I had to guess. I would be more inclined to say that Glover's going to do a little bit better in that fight, but Jamal Hill has the hands. I mean, he could potentially knock him out. It's always possible. I mean, that's why we do it. That's why they're fighting.
That's right.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you there, with you both. I mean, Jamal Hill definitely has the tools. Not only the tools, I mean, he has age on his side. He's only 31 compared to Glover in his early 40s. I mean, now that speaks a ton right there because, I mean, when you're a fighter, your body goes through mileage. Case in point, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. That guy, even if he's in his 40s, looks as though like he's filing for ARP next week. I mean, what I'm seeing with this fight is Jamal Hill, he's basically a more dynamic Sean Strickland, right? He doesn't have his takedowns, but this guy will fight left or right, doesn't matter. Always pressing forward, right? But what I don't like about his style is that he's constantly upright. Glover loves that. Glover likes to go to the body. He likes to go the body, head. And what I noticed about his sort of style that I think that Glover sees as a weakness is that he actually lowers his right hand, right? His jabs are strong. He always likes to mix it up with different angles, which we didn't see with perhaps with Magomed Ankalaev. So I think Glover has much more opportunity, especially having to train at the pit with Chuck Liddell with his famed knockout power. Come on. I think Chuck Liddell in his prime would be taking Jamal Hill out in the first round. So those are my thoughts.
Do we see the card markets moving at all for any of these light heavyweights after this? I feel like this kind of boosted Yuri almost a little bit. Someone made a joke. I thought this was really great. They were like, "Congratulations to Yuri for his first title defense."
No, it's very interesting. Yeah. Gio?
Yes, I see that very much having the effect. I mean, there's no I mean, it's no surprise why I had this as a background. We're making Magomed into a convict. I mean, we thought he was going to actually take the light heavyweight belt, but in fact, what we're seeing is the exact opposite, where now we're seeing kind of a bit of a downfall. I don't know if he can actually play the role of the heel. I don't think he's built that way. I don't think he's made to have that sort of charisma. But for a while, I think he needs to build his stock back up. Jan, we both enjoy watching him fight, but you know what? What happens to noble, honorable fighters who don't have that much to say, like Stipe Miocic? We're probably not going to see Jan's market increase that much more in value, but those who do love Jan, I think they're willing to spend at a premium. But yes, I do see Yuri's stock rising, but also Jamal Hill because that guy's just lots of fun to watch.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's that time gap now, right? And recency bias is a thing in UFC, probably more than any other sport, because there's big gaps, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like Yuri now, whoever was doubting that Yuri would be able to take like an Ankalaev, maybe assuming that maybe Glover is going to retire soon, maybe it's going to be his last fight. I can see some money coming back into Yuri prospecting. We saw that Magomed, he could be beat on standing up. I feel like Yuri's crazy standing up, right? That's what he's got. That's his game. I feel like he's actually more powerful, Yuri is, on the ground than Jan. So I don't think he would have as hard of a time defending. So I see Yuri's stock rising a little bit. And to your point, Jiho, like Jan, I feel like very solid foundation. Very solid. There's a lot of people that love Jan. I mean, he's just a consummate professional, a gentleman and a scholar. What do you think, Roll?
I agree. I think with your assessment on Yuri, I think this could, definitely boost Yuri's card market. People are going to be looking past the next main event. I don't think they're going to be looking past the next main event. I should say Jamal Hill has that unknown factor. We don't know a lot about. We've seen him fight, but I feel like we all kind of know a little bit more about Yuri because he was under the microscope.
Yeah.
When you have the belt, that's naturally just what happens. So I think Yeah, with Yuri, I think that his cards could be going up. I think Jamal Hill, like you said, totally could affect his cards. Magomed, I think not so much. I don't think a draw really does a whole lot for your market, especially in the fashion that he won. But yeah, we'll be looking toward Yuri and Hill hopefully in the future. We'll see what happens with Magomed and Hill first. I
Yeah,
don't have a whole lot to say about that one.
yeah. I think that with, I mean, Glover has much more to work with than Jamal Hill does. I mean, think about even his grappling pedigree, for example, right? Jamal Hill, and he's at best. I think the last time I saw his stats was that he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, which actually could go a long ways. But then what we have seen is that it hasn't. He's a typical type of like blue belt from back in the day, not the modernized one where they're just whooping and rolling people into pretzels in IBJJF tournaments. So I think that even Paul Craig, which funny enough happens to be that preliminary card going against Johnny Walker, I'm surprised that isn't part of the main card because he's the one that tapped him out, actually broke his arm before actually, having the ref recognize that it was just flailing about carelessly.
Yeah, it's shaking it up more than I thought it was going to be shook up. This will be interesting, and you got guys with old age could retire. You've got massive injuries, Rakic, Yuri. I don't know. I guess it's TBD, right? I don't think any massive shifts in pricing take place as a result of any of the light heavyweight stuff going on. But
yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. Should we go to the next elephant in the room?
Yes, most definitely.
All right, Patty. Thoughts? Man, the reactions this elicited were just crazy. Both sides.
Yeah, Jake, I got to hear from you because rolling out on, yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm going to be real honest on this one. So just as kind of to preface that, I think it's concerning for the sport in general, in my opinion. I think it's concerning that the judges can be swayed by either, the noise of the crowd, because I know that's probably, it could be an issue potentially if the judges hear the crowd for Patty and everything, and they're going nuts and thinking that Patty's actually winning the fight when Gordon really, in my opinion, won all 3 rounds. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Patty could have taken the second. That was the closest round, but in my opinion, I think Gordon won that fight by a landslide. I think it was a 29-28 victory. By every stretch of the imagination, I don't see Patty winning that fight, and to me, it's concerning.
Yeah. Gio, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Patty, I couldn't agree with you more, Roll. I mean, Patty shouldn't have won that fight. And the way he conducted himself after the fight, I think lost more fans than it actually did gain any new ones. I mean, it's the same case with Sean O'Malley with Piotr Jan. What we saw was Sean actually losing that fight. I mean, we even had the great Khabib, right? He even mentioned that I don't know what happened with the judges scoring on that. But Sean O'Malley was gracious enough to say, hey, just like Jan Blachowicz, I have to go back and watch the tape. But he didn't go out there, pouring with tears in his eyes and whatever, but saying that he won the fight. And the way that the aura, to just that assurance that Patty had in himself, thinking that he won that fight, I don't know. I think it does a disservice to him, especially like the casual audience. I think they're kind of picking it up on him, like, hey, this guy, I don't think he's top 10 talent after all.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, look, there's 2 things here. One is the Patty hype train. And I like the persona. I like interesting characters. I think that the sport needs them. Every sport needs characters, right? In and outside the ring. I did not like how he carried himself afterwards. I think if he put out, a post-fight interview, kind of like what Sean O'Malley did, that would be much better received. It's kind of like, hey, we went to war for the fans, right? We left it all out there. I'll have to take a look. I thought it was really close. I mean, I rewatched that fight a few times now, and I thought I could see how the optics for some of the flurries that Patty had were exciting. So he launched some combos. He did some damage here and there. Um, I don't know. I think you'd have to really stretch to make a case for him winning.
Right.
But then that calls into, so the first one is the hype train, people kind of being negatively reacting to kind of some of his antics, and I don't see this helping. I agree. And then the
No,
second thing, go ahead, Jake.
right. No. No, you're like a preacher, I know. So keep preaching on.
Well, the second thing is, and it is concerning for the sport in some ways because we saw like the leech, right? That decision did not go
right.
anywhere near. I mean, I thought that was even worse than the Patty fight, to be honest with you. My personal opinion, I thought Leach was that was more obvious to me. Um, that was very strange. I look back at, and I had a parlay, full disclosure on this, and it helped to win the parlay, but little monster Demi or Demo, I can't remember her name. Um, she fought. It was like an undercard fight. Like she had no business winning that one. It was very confusing. But judges are humans, right? I don't know. Something needs to change with the scoring, I think, because there's pressure. You control the ring, right? I thought Gordon was controlling a lot of it, so it's hard to make that argument. You've got control time, damage that you do when you're controlling. There's there's damage, which of course is important. So Gordon was bleeding a little bit. It's just you have to do a lot of mental gymnastics, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be that hard to score these things. And I don't, that's not. We don't have to litigate necessarily what the UFC needs to do to fix that. But I think this coupled with like the whole Kraus debacle going on with betting and everything else,
Yes.
they need to be 110% airtight right now. And maybe that's
Yeah.
why Dana, maybe he was a little upset after the fight because he doesn't want, like, okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Let's say he's got nothing to do with, any kind of influence on the judges or whatever. He's probably getting, asked a ton of questions by counsel about this investigation that's going on with Kraus. He's probably pissed off. He wants all of this to go away. At the end of the day, the judges are supposed to be an independent body. So I don't know. This can't be good. Net, this is not good for the card market. We talked about how Patty was one of those big rookies that people were chasing. I think this hurts 2022 product with maybe the one silver lining here for 22 is going to be Taporia. So
Yes, I agree with you there. Topuria is the only one that actually won from all of this, like from the rookie standpoint. And it's a bit sad because we were hoping with all these prospects that Panini was calling out that we would have actually seen a fantastic rookie class, when in fact we didn't. We did, I think, get some more fans with Alex Morono. I mean, he took that a fight last minute. At the
yeah.
welterweight. I think he did pretty damn well until he got caught with that one punch. But yes, I agree with you there. I mean, Patty the Pimble, I mean, he's now been demystified, right? He's going to do a hell of a lot more if he wants to get more fans back. I mean, Conor McGregor, I mean, at this point, he was already calling out how he was going to be ending fights, right? But Patty right now, I think he's just relying on his confidence. But Jake, what are your thoughts?
Not to beat a dead horse here, but with the Patty scoring, I know it's it's totally subjective. So it's a sport where it is subjective. There's no score. It's not, you're not scoring a basket, in basketball, and
Mm-hmm.
it's led to 3 people who are sitting on the corner of the cage. So in saying that, when Gordon scores 3 takedowns out of the 6 shots that he took in 6 minutes and 28 seconds of cage control, as opposed to Patty's 1 takedown attempt, 0 landed in 35 seconds of cage control. I mean, we have to look at that objectively. It is a subjective judging system, but if we look at the numbers, I mean, the statistics don't lie.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's going to remain consistent. And it was a little bit closer, I think, in the Jan fight as opposed to the Jan and O'Malley fight as opposed to this one. But I mean, something has to be done. I think you're totally right. As far as Ilya, I'll eat my words.
Me too. Jiho.
Yeah. I saw it coming. Ilya's striking is a lot faster and a lot more powerful. I just thought Bryce was a little bit more well-rounded.
Yeah.
My lack of sleep is kicking in. But at the same time, I think Ilya's he looked great on the ground. I mean, He wrapped Bryce up. Bryce claims that he had a flu a week before the fight. I'll take his word for it. But, overall, you got to be ready for anything. If you're going to step into the octagon, you have to own up to it. And I think Bryce did a good job of that as well. As far as Ilya, I think it's going to be exciting looking forward. There's a lot of a lot of formidable opponents, including Mabzar. Volk obviously is always going to be at the top.
Yep.
And, even Sodiq Yusuff, a couple other guys that are pretty exciting fighters. So we'll see where it takes us. I think Ilya going forward, he will definitely be in the top 5 for a long time.
Yeah, I think so too. But then here's the tricky thing though, is it's like you got Max Holloway, the ultimate gatekeeper to Volkanovski, right?
The number one, yep.
That fight that Holloway had against Hitter, we're just talking to DC. He was talking to the people actually calling the fights, telling them that he was the best, while at the same time ducking, weaving, rolling through punches. Absolute amazing talent. I know. Do I want to see Topuria like in title contention? Yes, I do. But I frankly think that he still took a bit too much damage from a guy who has grappling as his heart and his rice and beans, right?
Yep.
But I also want to allude to one other thing is that with Patty now, I think even more so that the scoring of having a 10-9 system, it works in boxing, and Joe Rogan actually talks about this, right? Maybe we should. I'm not saying we're obviously as that Turner pointed out, we're not going to litigate anything. We're not going to tell the Nevada State Commission, hey, this is how it should be done. But this is the reason why I liked Pride back in the day, right? You were fighting to finish the fight. It wasn't judged based round by round. Right. So
yeah. And then I can understand the counterpoint is, well, we don't want everything to finish in a finish because we want to preserve health and all that kind of stuff. But they gotta something's gotta change. And we'll leave it up to the pros. Hopefully they have, they've got the motivation to do that given all the stuff that's going on. But yeah, I don't know. But you're right, Roll. I think you're spot on. This is a little concerning. And we'll see. You don't want to leave it to the judges if you're fighting against a popular fighter, because until we know more, it's just you can't help but speculate, right? And going back to Topuria real quick, I feel like this is a coming out party for him. I think we're going to see more speculation fly in to Topuria, and there's a few rookies out there that are, I think, still very exciting, but he's probably going to be on the upper tier now. So yeah, good on him. And Jiho, I will never question you again. That was awesome.
What are you talking about?
No, you called it. You're like, hey, he used to have submissions, right? That was impressive. That was impressive.
What about your take on Dricus? Sure, we saw him get the victory, but yeah. What are your thoughts?
I don't think either fighter is going to be in the top 5.
No, neither do I.
No way. They're going to, yeah. I was not impressed. I'm not going to take away from it. He's a warrior, but I'm not impressed. I think Andre Muniz takes him down.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I look at, Andre Muniz and I think Dricus are totally in 2 different classes as far as technique. Dricus, he gives off that Rodolfo Vieira, that look. He's big, strong, powerful, but if he can't utilize his strong points, nothing's going to happen. And with Dricus, it looks like he's too timid. It looks like he's afraid to get hit. Every time, if you notice, every time someone goes to strike him in any of the fights really that he's had, he's not moving forward. He's always moving backward, and it leaves him open for a lot of powerful strikes. I think when he meets his match with somebody that does have one punch knockout power, Brad Tavares is probably the closest thing that we've seen in the UFC that he's fought so far with knockout power. But I think when he meets his match, Dricus is probably not going to go very far in the middleweight division as far as top 15, top 10. However, Till, I kind of already had that perception. I haven't been impressed with Till. He didn't look good at all in the first round. 0 strikes to 60 strikes, or to strikes to 60 strikes. He turned it up in the second and third, but I Not impressed with Till's performance by any means.
I mean, Till demonstrated his low fight IQ when he was talking to the ref.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine. It's still getting hammered in the face. I understand you could take a punch, Mr. Till, but your eyes so your jaw is slowly being
Yeah.
dislocated. It's not the best. And then I think you touched on an interesting point is that he does a lot of back and forth movement, which we actually saw with Patty, and we still haven't seen Patty evolve from that. It's like this karate, like or taekwondo. You do, hey, it's my turn to throw some strikes at you. Now I'm just going to retreat. It's my turn to strike at you. It's basically line sparring. It isn't angular. It isn't boxing. It isn't Muay Thai. It isn't any of the martial arts that actually try to make it into a real fight.
Yeah.
But I think
Right, it's bag work. It's bag work.
It is bag work. It's like the bag's gonna hit you back. It's gonna be more than just back and forth.
Did I hear? I don't have this full. I don't have the full background on this, but did Till injure his ACL or something? Were they saying? I
Did
can't
he?
remember. I don't know. Little Turnip mentioned something about maybe he injured his ACL in round 1. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't too impressed. And like just circling back to Dreykus, right? Because he won. Do I see him beating like Marvin Vittori? Do I see him beating Apollo Costa? Do I see him like Rob Whitaker? No, it's not going to happen.
No.
And Andre Muniz, I think that's maybe I don't know. That'd be a good fight. I would love to see that because, like you said, Jake, there's levels, and that's like the next level right there. It's like, dude, yeah.
Yeah, Paulo Costa. That him calling out Paulo Costa made no sense at all.
No,
That's a bad idea. Although
And
maybe Paulo Costa's going to drink a little wine before the fight. That's what he'd have to bank on.
but you know what? You guys are both right about how the Chris Curtis fight versus Joaquin Buckley, that was going to be basically a fight in a telephone booth, right? But then I just couldn't get over how wide Joaquin Buckley's strikes were. I
Yeah.
mean, he made him look like he was a kid, like showing off like how he could punch, you know?
yeah, I agree with that. I think that Joaquin, I think his strategy going in, especially against a guy like Chris Curtis, Chris Curtis has like that high guard stance. He trains with Strickland, from what I've heard. So I think he was trying to I think he was purposely trying to throw strikes wide in order to get past Chris Curtis's guard. But in his past fights, we've seen the same thing, and he leaves himself open. Insane power in his strikes, but unless you're knocking the guy out, it's not going to be effective into the later rounds. So, I had Curtis by knockout, or I'm sorry, I had Joaquin Buckley by knockout. But I could definitely see a Chris Curtis victory there if Joaquin was losing cardio, throwing those wide strikes and leaving his hands down. So, and that's what happened. So, and I didn't see him knocking him out. I saw him winning by decision. So that was a shocker to me. That was a shocker.
Yeah, he definitely made the older fighter. Oh, I mean, he made the older fighter look much better, right?
Yes.
Right. He was like what 36, I believe. And I feel like Chris Curtis could actually do well against Dreykus, right?
Oh yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because he sees the shots, he can read them much better. Fighting what 6 times in 2021. I mean, this guy's durable. They call him Action Man for a reason.
Yep. How about we could do a speed round here. Ponzinibbio and Shabazian.
Oh, Ponzinibbio and Shabazian. Oh,
Yeah, they both walked away with the dubs.
Right.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
Well, Ponzinibbio fight, that was pretty solid.
definitely Ponzinibbio. I'm glad that he's back in the win column. But he had my heart against ropes. But I'm much more glad that Shabazian won.
Yeah,
understood.
He needed a win in the column. I think Shabazian was hurting there for a little bit. 3-fight losing streak, I think it was, and against somebody of that caliber, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Lungi Mbala. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but he's a good fighter. I don't think he's nearly as technical as Edmund. Obviously, he hurt him there for a little bit, but yeah, Edmund, he puts it together. He finds ways to win. I think he was outclassed. I mean, if you look at it, who he fought last, I think I have it here somewhere. But go ahead and give your point while I'm looking, because I want to see who he fought in his last few fights.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it brief. I'm happy to see them both win. They needed some dubs. I don't think, honestly, aside from Topuria, Paddy, and then we already talked about the light heavyweights, any of the other fights, I don't really see moving the needle on anything in the card market, personally.
No, in truth, I think the reason why Dreykus is still going to have a solid fan base is that he's from South Africa,
Yeah.
right? We have a number of fighters from New Zealand, Australia, Dagestan, a plethora. But with South Africa, we never have seen a strong stable come from that. Even back in the K1 days with Francois Botha, right? I had the opportunity to train with him, but he's like one out of how many people that should be up there. I mean, it's rich with talent, but I mean, they just spend it on the Springboks, a rugby team.
Yep. No, yeah, I'm with you.
Quickly, his last 3 fights were Nasruddin, Jack Hermanson, and Derek Bronson. So we can see why Edmund Shahbazian lost those last 3 fights, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Very good fighters. So
yeah.
And that's the reason why they
paired a big win for him.
Striker, right? That's the reason why they paired him with the striker as opposed to another grappler, right? Right.
And if you don't mind, while we're on the subject, I know you mentioned South African fighters. Did you guys catch the Cameron Simon fight?
No.
It was the early prelim, is actually the opener, and I would definitely recommend going back and looking at it. That was a great fight. That was an awesome fight. So I would definitely recommend going back and taking a look.
Cameron, right?
Yeah, he scraped by with a 3rd round TKO. I think it was last 40-45 seconds. Cameron Simon, Saimann.
Oh yeah. Perfect. I missed that one.
Yeah, great fight. So I would definitely recommend watching that for anybody that didn't see that one. He's an up and comer too. I know him and Dreykus I think they trained together actually. So I would keep my eye on him. He's a very good fighter. His opponent was, I don't know if you have it up, Paul, but
it was Steven Kozlow.
Yeah, Kozlow, that's right. And he's also a jiu-jitsu black belt. So yeah, it was a great match. Great scrambles, and definitely recommend taking a look at it.
Yeah, I was impressed by Billy Q. That was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think like any of these fights move the needle yet on product, to be honest with you. But it's nice to see Billy. I mean, Billy Q's he's a rookie in 22. I know we touched on this a little bit ago, Jiho, before you joined Roll, but I think what we can do maybe in like a week or so, our next show could be kind of like a year roundup, year in review for 2022 and the product that Panini put out. I know we've got, and I'll defer to you, Jiho, on the release schedule for Optic, but we can talk about kind of what they're putting out to close the year. Maybe touch a little bit on what we think is going to hold value, maybe increase in value heading into 23. And then I do see a class of rookies coming out next year that might be exciting. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that on the next show. There's a few names that I think come to mind that I think might spur some interest.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I mean, Roll, I'm pretty sure you're aware that tomorrow is the debut of Optic FOTL on the Panini website. For those that don't know, FOTL stands for first off the line. It's the more premium product, which in this case will include another signature or another auto to the Optic hobby box. And I believe that the signature, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be out of 20 or 25. So it's pretty much an SSP. So to that extent, it's going to be starting at a $400 level, and then it's going to be based on a Dutch auction. So whoever buys it at $400 will get their box, but then over time it'll drop in increments. I believe it'll be around like 25, 50. I might be mistaken. That might even be 10. So it's going to keep on dropping until the inventory is sold out. Another product that we're going to look forward to is the actual Optic hobby box, which is going to be released on the 21st, so next week. And I'm sure that we're going to be talking about that as well. But a quick synopsis is that, I mean, it's Optic, right? It's got downtowns. It's got some sweet characters in it. But then I've also heard some mixed feedback where people are not happy with the rookie class or the number of people that are in downtowns. For example, you don't have Nate Diaz, and people were expecting that.
Yeah, that's true. Here's a little X factor for this product too. So downtowns, I agree. The list is short, and we can go over that next time. But here's a little curveball. We've got John Anik, Megan O'Leary, Bruce Buffer, Laura Senko, and Joe Martinez in there. That's interesting. Not for
Yeah.
downtown, but there's Voices of the Octagon again. And I know people do like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they have the My House cards and some other inserts that are going to be a little bit different than the normal Donruss set. I think the other difference between Optic and Donruss is it's supposed to have more of like a Panini Prism type feel to it, so it won't be just a paper stock, which will be nice. So I'm interested to see what it has in store, but I guess we'll see in the next few days after the FLTL drops. It'll be nice to see some new product.
For sure. We'll tune into some box openings and come with some opinions.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, turn to Chicken 101. If you can or whatnot, I mean, that's the guy that brought us all together here. And
For sure.
I think that the Donruss product is actually going to do rather well. Not Donruss, but Optic, which is
I think so too.
Basically the premium end of Donruss.
Yeah, we'll finally get to see if it does in fact have on-card autos. I know I've heard some rumors about Optic having on-card autos. So
that'd be nice. That would be a difference.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, that would be like, I think in my opinion, that's the game changer there.
Agreed. Yeah, we haven't seen too much of that in 22. There's nothing in 22, right, that has on-card autos.
No,
I don't think. Yeah, this.
No, yeah, just immaculate for 21.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Should I ask you guys about this week's fight card? Because I'm pretty stoked about it. It's not really like how you say, it wasn't very marketed the best, but you got a lot of people on there.
It's got low key some absolute bangers.
It does. Yeah. It does. And
yeah,
aside from Cannonier versus Strickland, there's Armand versus Demir. There's
huge
Dober versus Green. There's Marquez versus Wynn. So
yeah, I think Dober versus Green is going to be a good one. I'm interested to see what happens with Armand, because if Armand can defeat Demir,
yes,
that the Armand bandwagon or the hype train will continue. I think the Gamrot loss, it was close, but that kind of derailed it just slightly.
Right.
But I mean, that was a great technical fight. So yeah, that one for sure is one I'm looking forward to. Looking at like the prelims, the Said Nurmagomedov could be interesting. I know he's kind of moving up, so that might be interesting too. Nothing else really jumps out at me necessarily. I just in terms of card market.
Yeah.
I think there may be one that I'm looking at, Amir Albazi, for example.
Oh, yeah.
I would definitely keep my eyes peeled. Yeah. Keep your eyes peeled for Amir Albazi, and then also on the prelim, Corey McKenna. And I think she's way underlooked. She's got phenomenal wrestling, in my opinion. I'm really excited to watch her fight.
She comes from that stable Team Alpha Male, right? So
yeah, Team Alpha Male.
I don't expect the best from her, but I definitely look forward to Armand, because right now with Shabazian winning, I mean, we could definitely see an ascent in Persian fighter cards, right? Like we could definitely see that stock going high, but definitely Albazi versus Costa, one of them. I also want to see Marquez versus Wynn, just because I'm a fight fan at the end of the day. It's the Cuban Mid-Dollar Crisis versus Daniel Cormier's teammate, Darren Wynn.
Dude, that last fight, Marquez was insane.
By RoboCop.
It was insane.
Oh, Brian Battle's fighting too. I didn't know that. That'd be a good one.
It's not a bad fight night.
No, not at all. Yeah, actually, sometimes these fight nights end up being better than the pay-per-views, as far as like stylistically. I think they turn out to be more exciting fights a lot of the time.
Definitely.
I'm glad we could do this because it just goes to show your acumen and understanding these fight cards, right? And because UFC 283, I'm not too excited for. It's like, you have Glover versus Hill, Figueiredo versus Moreno, 89 or something. But you also have Burns versus Magny. And it's like, okay, that's the that I want to watch. Craig versus Walker, okay, good. But then outside of that, I mean, this weekend's fight card, I feel it's much more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I get why they did it. Obviously, they're going back to Brazil. But some of these, it's just, It's not as exciting as some of the others that have been out there. However, I will say, I mean, I'm a huge Moreno fan. I can't wait for that.
Okay, I don't. Okay, so I'm glad you said that right now because I'm a big Pantoja fan.
Me too.
Alexander Pantoja. That guy has been killing it, but it's always Moreno. What?
Yeah.
Pantoja has beaten Moreno. I mean, I want to see them fight again, yes, but uh, and yeah, I'm just
Oh,
sad.
Thiago, hey, here's another one that's on. And I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, and we'll talk a
Sure.
little bit more about this when it gets closer. But Thiago Moises against
Yes.
Goram, dude,
Yes.
that's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
That's another guy I can see in the top 10 for a long time, Goram.
Yeah. I'm surprised that he doesn't have a card. I'm surprised that Michael Johnson doesn't have a card. Come on.
I know, and that's what we're saying is I think 23 might be interesting,
I
Yeah.
think
at least to
23
Prism.
needs, if you guys aren't familiar, Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train. I think you guys, if you aren't
Need the
familiar, he needs a card.
trade. Yeah.
He would be a PC of mine. I think he's a dog. I would like to see him have a card. I think there's
Love
a
it.
lot of guys like that you see and you watch their fights and people forget about them, but they have a special place in my heart. So
Yeah.
yeah, Nate the Train.
No, I love it, man. Everyone deserves a rookie card. That's what Prism's about, right?
Yeah.
Put it out
Yeah.
there.
But it's surprising like how the casual audience will start um crapping on fighters like Angela Hill, right? And tell you the truth, like they call her overkill for a reason. She doesn't stop. She's always game to fight. And in her last bout, she won. Well, she ended the fight.
Yep,
Well,
yep. And that's one aspect of the hobby that I really like is when I was before I really got into it, and this is gonna hear me out here because this is gonna be a stretch, okay?
All right.
When I started out watching football, American football, all right. Um, I'm a Bears fan, Chicago Bears fan through and through. I would only watch Bears games, and I would once in a while watch some games here and there, like Sunday night, Monday night, that kind of thing. And then once I started getting into fantasy football, I watch everything now, pretty much all the time. And just following all these different players and their careers and all that kind of stuff. I kind of feel the same way with the UFC. Like I was always a fan, but I would watch the pay-per-views I wanted to watch. I would skip the others. Now I find myself watching pretty much every single one. And I started doing that because, you start opening Prism, you start getting some of these rookie cards, and you're like, hey, I've only seen this guy fight once or I've only seen her fight once. Let me go on, Fight Pass, take a look at some of these. Wait a minute, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. And all of a sudden, you're looking forward to all these different undercards, prelims, fight nights, right? So I think being a fan and being a fan of the hobby kind of go hand in hand, and one feeds the other, and I kind of like that.
yeah, totally. I totally agree. It adds a new element to it, just like sports betting. Some people are into sports betting, other people like sports cards. Some people like both, like myself.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, it adds a new element to it. It makes it a little bit more fun. You're not just watching the fight; you're rooting for your fighter. You're rooting for their card stock to go up. So I don't know,
Yeah,
adds a new fun element to it.
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. I feel as though like fighters are just extensions of who we are, right? Though we want to admit it or not, they are artists. They
Yeah,
perform things that you want to see. For example, knockouts, grappling, but sometimes you just fall in love with his or her sort of direction, how they actually want to approach the fight game, that sort of focus, and maybe even from where they're from, and that's just a fantastic thing to have in the hobby.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I hope we can touch on this in the future because I'm going to ask you guys a funny question. Can you learn a lot about a person by taking a look at their PC? I think yes. You can learn a whole lot about a guy or a
It's a
girl
lot. Yeah,
or a guy or gal. Are they only picking the winners? Are they only picking, the hype trains? Do they've got
Right.
like are they proud of their nationality? Like you can learn a lot about somebody through their UFC card collection. More so I think than any other probably sport because it's just, there's a team, right? And you follow that team or whatever or the goats. With UFC it's like just show me one person's PC and I'll tell you a little bit about who they are.
Right.
yeah,
I mean, it goes to show you also, like, if you enjoy the hobby, I mean, you're not going to necessarily buy the most expensive stuff, right? He very well might be, but then if you could talk about it and then show off the cards that he got for some reason because you saw a specific event, or you were just on this journey with this fighter because he or she was making they were on the mend. It's just fantastic, you know. But I
Yep.
agree with you there, Turner. It's just like you see someone's collection, it's all Connor. You're like, okay, either this guy's from Ireland or maybe from Boston, or
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
complete just all about the hype train, and it's just
Yeah.
like a flip.
Do they collect only Prism? Do you only have slabs? Do you like raw cards? Do you like
Right.
on-card autos? Do you care about sticker autos? Does it have to be the first release? I mean, and I think maybe what we can do is the year-end roundup. We can talk a little bit about how we collect and kind of what type of collections we're trying to build and what we've seen in the hobby and how we've seen sort of the community because we've been a part of it now for a little, for a little while, right? We can see kind of what we've seen. People are completing different sets. Some people are going over, individual fighters, and talk a little bit about what we want to see coming out of 2023 because we do need to talk about the rookies that are coming out.
Okay. Speaking of which, and I just want to just end it on this note
Yeah.
from my end is there's this guy named Joe's Card Stash that I sent you guys that DM about, like, because he's just ecstatic about like where we're taking this and etc. This guy is the perfect sort of fan of MMA because he takes such great joy in just like the little sort of treasures or little hits that he has, right? It's not massive. It's not like some sort of like one of one. It's not some sort of like a gold vinyl. It's just that because he's a fan of the hobby. In fact, and I can't wait for him to actually put out his next episode, and we got to give him a shout out next time.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I'm a big fan. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joe's Card Stash. And actually, Joe, if you want to DM me your address, I would like to send you a Gilbert Burns, gold Gilbert Burns, 4 out of 10.
Ooh,
I know you're a Gilbert Burns fan, so if you want to shoot me your address over DM, I can shoot you that. I can send that card to you, no problem. I'm a
nice.
big fan.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a fan of Burns, I might have something for him as well because that's how we support each other.
I know
mean,
he's mentioned it on his channel, so yeah, if you're interested, let me know.
right
That's
on.
awesome. Well, cool. Let's end it there, and we've got something to look forward to. We'll do the year-end roundup show maybe in a week or so. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we're going to keep iterating on this, but had a lot of fun with you guys tonight.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone. Thanks
As
for
well,
tuning
yeah, thank you guys.
Just bleed.
in.
All right, take care, everybody.